This class is a beautiful class teaching us what music is about. What's the Jewish view of music, how much it influences our lives, and how, in a way, we can think it doesn't change our opinions, but it has a greater effect than other methods that we try to change our opinions or our knowledge. So we'll start with the overview, and we'll start with Sterni, if you'd like to read the overview. Let's pull up over here. In the student book, if you have it, it's on page number 256. Sterni, if you'd like to read.
Okay. Is that song still stuck in your head? Music has far...
Oh, yeah, good.
Okay. Music has far more power than most of us realize. It is both the soul of language and the language of the soul. The themes, messages, and tunes expressed in music have the potential to penetrate both our emotions and belief systems. Therefore, it is important we choose music which connects us to the ideas and feelings we want to emulate in our own lives, as opposed to music that may cause a destructive mindset.
Okay, thank you. And let's move down to the introduction over here. We'll get back to the key points at the end of the class. One moment. And Elia, if you'd like to read over here the introduction. Page 258.
Okay. What is music? You can't taste it, touch it, or see it. Still, its themes penetrate us to our very core, moving us in ways little else does. It makes us laugh, dance, cry, and feel love. Just a few combinations of sound, words, frequencies, and we're immediately transported back in place and time. What makes music this powerful? Because it speaks on an emotional level, which connects humans universally. It's a language to understand. The Torah is filled with instances where music is prioritized and used as a means to uplift, unite, and connect with the divine.
Okay, so it's understanding, number one, the introduction is to tell you how powerful music is. Music changes people's moods, it changes their opinions on many matters. It's a universal language that someone can play music and I know what they're feeling, regardless of which country they're from. So let's assume over here they have this activity where you draw your singer, but let's skip the practical part about it. And let's imagine for a moment, if you were to listen to a singer, regardless if you've seen him or not before, can you imagine in your mind, based on the music you're listening to, what type of person the singer is? You would think of what type of clothing he's wearing and what type of character he is. Sheila, the question is for you. If you were able to just listen to a piece of music, would you be able to say, with an assumption, which would probably be to somewhat degree accurate, who is the singer, not as his name, but what's his character? Sheila? Okay, I guess, I don't know if you could unmute yourself. I clicked unmute on this part. If not, we'll get back to you if you can unmute. Otherwise, Mushki.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah, now I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so my question to you is, would you be able to listen to a piece of music and just by listening to it, assume who the artist is based on like what type of clothing they wear, what type of person they are, what type of lifestyle they live? Yeah, Sheila, the question is for you. Do you think it's...
No. Yeah, but, well, you could certainly tell by the clothing and by the musical instruments that they're wearing.
Yeah.
And
so, right. No, that's true. The fact that you could listen to someone play music and know a little bit about them shows that they give over a little bit of who they are within their music. How old is music? If we look in Jewish sources, how far back does music go? So let's look over here on our screen of how long ago did music exist within the Jewish culture. Within our Jewish sources, if we were to look up, where is music mentioned? Is it mentioned in the Bible? Is it something that was around from the beginning of time? So let's read over here a few verses from the Torah regarding music.
I can't get that.
You have over here source number one. Mushka, if you'd like to read a verse from Bereshit, Genesis chapter 4.
And his brothers named him Yuval. He was the father of all who grasped a lyre and a flute.
Very good. So this is a verse from from chapter 4 in Genesis. So it's before the generation of Noah. It's the seventh generation from Adam. And they already had a guy that was in charge. He had a business of making musical instruments and selling them. So music has been around. We know from within a few hundred years of creation, there was already a guy running a shop where he was fixing people's instruments. In addition, we find it with the Jewish people years later in the book of Exodus. Layla, if you'd like to read the first quote from the book of Exodus, the Song of Moses.
The Song of Moses. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord. They said, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver, he is hurled into the sea. The Lord is my strength and might. He is become my deliverance. This is my God, and I will enshrine him, the God of my father, and I will exalt him.
Very good. So this is a quote where the Jewish people were saved after they left Egypt. They went through the sea split for them, they were saved, the Egyptians drowned. And because of that, they sang a song to God. So we see it as a form of praise. When someone was extremely excited, they would start singing. And we find this going back 3,300 years ago. So too, we find that the women did the same thing. Source number 3, Stern, if you'd like to read.
Then Miriam, the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her and danced with timbrels. And Miriam chanted for them, sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, horse and driver, he has hurried into the sea.
Very good. So you have here again, this was a timbrel is a tambourine with, which I'm assuming you guys have seen tambourines. That's what the women sung with at the time. Source number 4, Sheila, if you'd like to read from.
I can't see any, I don't see any words.
Oh, does
I can't see the script.
Elia, do you see anything?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Elia, if you could read source number 4.
Oh, okay. Songs at the well. And from there to Bear, which is the well where the Lord said to Moses, assemble the people that I may give them water. Then Israel sang this song, spring up, O well, sing to it.
Yeah, so again, over here, we find at the end of the Torah, where the Jewish people had a well that was traveling with them for many years. They wanted to praise God for it. Again, they sing to God. What are the final moments God has to spend with Moses? Moses was a leader for 40 years. He started his career at age 80, finished his career at age 120. The final day of his life, he was still working full days. And the final day, the Torah tells us, God gives him a mission, something about a song. And Layla, if you'd like to read, starting with the final minutes, and then read the source.
The final minutes of God and Moses' last earthly meeting are well documented. The last song before the death of Moses. And now write for yourselves this song and teach it to the children of Israel. Place it into their mouths in order that this song will be for me as a witness for the children of Israel.
Very good. So we would assume that maybe the timing is a little off. Moses, on the last day of his life, which he was aware he was about to die, had lots of things to take care of. To finish off his last touches, you would assume he would spend his final hours communicating with God, giving over a will, telling the Jewish people some deep secrets about the future. And yet he's busy singing to them. Him and Joshua are busy singing. And you ask yourself, is that really what you would do on the last day of your life? Right after he passes away, everybody cries for 30 days. If you knew that it's the last day, people would have already been crying before. And yet he takes his time to start singing as if he's on a vacation in the Bahamas, spending all his time on a relaxing ideas that he's trying to give over through song. This last point shows us just how deep music is and how much can be given over through song that cannot be given over through lectures. For years, Moses is sitting there and lecturing the people. But there's a limit how much a lecture can influence and change someone's mind. On the other hand, on the last day, the most memorable day, when one Jewish leader was leaving his role and the next was taking his role to become the next Jewish leader, Moses understood that the best thing he can do is have this duet where both of them are singing a song to the Jewish people about their future. Why was it so memorable? Why was it so important? Precisely because it was his last day, he used that opportunity to sing a song to them, something that was extremely important for them to hear. Let's look this question. Mushke, if you'd like to read this question in the box, what is music?
What is music? What is its power? How does it impact me? How should I use it?
Okay, can you answer any one of those questions? Pick whichever one you want.
Yes. It impacts me. It totally changes my mood. Every time I listen to good music, I am like calm, happy. So it definitely has a positive impact. On the other hand, if it's music I dislike, it totally triggers me and I'm like, turn it off. So definitely has a immediate impact. It's not like a long-term impact, it's an immediate. Like when music's not around me, I don't feel like it's impacted me long-term.
Okay, that's nice. So it's like an instant mood changer for the good or for the bad. So let's look at that over here. We'll describe exactly that point, starting with Elia, if you'd like to read A, outlet versus inlet.
Outlet versus inlet. Is music a way we let our feelings out, or is it a way we let others' feelings in? And then keep going. Oh yeah. What is our favorite thing to do as an outlet? Often we think of music as an outlet. Perhaps we have endured a stressful day at school or work, or maybe we just want to kill a little bit of time. We turn on the music. Oh, that's better. Breathe in, release. What is music? But is music just an outlet? Is it possible for music to also be an inlet? Maybe it is more of an inlet than an outlet. We actually might be letting in more from the music we listen to than letting out.
Very good. So this is the number one key point, which is as much as we believe people made music in order to serve us, how many times did artists say, you know, there's someone out there I think that needs to listen to this. I want to serve them, rather than then saying, I have something that I want to share, something that's going on in my life that I feel I want to give out so other people can either connect with it, maybe it'll also help me financially. But it was more of a way for them to express themselves rather than for them to serve their audience. So let's begin one step at a time within music. Let's start with the lyrics, where on a basic level, lyrics is often paired with music. You're right that lyrics is not music. Lyrics is more poetry, but nevertheless, lyrics is usually associated with music. And the question for, let's pull it up over here on the screen. And Layla, if you'd like to read this question.
What percentage of the lyrics you listen to do you agree with? Wait, listen to do what? Of the lyrics you listen to, do you agree with? Yeah, sorry.
Okay. And what's your take on that?
I think a lot of people don't really listen to the lyrics very carefully when they're listening to songs, actually, and kind of just like maybe mindlessly sing songs a lot of the time. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like.
Right. So you're saying most people don't even pay attention to the lyrics. It doesn't matter to them. They're listening more for the music.
Yeah, I think though, for me, like I don't have to agree with the lyrics to appreciate a good song.
Right. Okay, and so you're getting on target to our question. If you don't care, you say, I don't even know what they're saying. Let's say you're listening to some music in Spanish, you have no idea what they're saying. You say, I just like the music. But let's say you were listening to a song and you hear the lyrics and you don't agree with the lyrics. You say, oh, I don't like this message, but I like the song. Do you think there's any harm with listening to music that you don't agree with?
I think on the one hand, it's good to hear things that you don't agree with and get other perspectives. But on the other, if it's going to upset you, then yeah, I think it's harmful.
Right. So just going into clarifying the question, I'm not referring to if you're listening to, you like chocolate and someone is singing about how good vanilla is, or if you like Republicans and someone's singing how Democrats are good. That's opinions which are not necessarily you're saying that my opinion is the only way. But let's say I'm talking about music where it's talking about moral values. And you have certain moral values you believe, whether it's men and women, you believe about honesty, about drugs, about family, about prayer to God. And you're listening to music of someone that it is another opinion, but you don't believe is an opinion that you even want to consider. That person is speaking a little bit about an abusive type of way of using another gender to serve their own needs, or speaking negatively about police or about family or God, anything of that sort. Do you think there's an issue with listening to music like that, or no harm done? It's just another person's opinion, which I disagree with, but it's fine with listening to the music.
You're still asking me?
Yeah, just to clarify the question.
Oh, yeah, that sounds kind of harmful.
Okay. Yeah, no, so it's just a question. It's an opinion, so you can share what you think. So that is definitely what we take over here from a Jewish source, that exact question. Let's start with Stern, if you could read over here, number 6, from above until whatever you see on the page.
It didn't show up on my screen yet. I don't know why.
Oh.
I just see like the picture of the music notes.
Okay, so maybe it's gonna just take a minute for it to load. Sorry that it's.
Oh, okay, now I see it.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. Sefer HaChinuch Mitzvah Kriya Shema. Among the reasons of the mitzvah reciting Shema morning and evening is that God wanted to grace his nation with accepting his rulership and oneness every day and night of their lives. Since a person is materialistic, he is drawn after worldly emptiness and his desires. So he needs a constant reminder of the rulership of heaven to guard him from sin.
Okay, now read the bottom part.
Why do you suppose God asks us to say Shema twice a day? If we already believe it, then we already believe it anyways. And if we do not believe it, then what will the recitation help?
Yeah, so this is a question which we can have. God tells us to say certain things about him, certain beliefs about God, certain commitments that we're taking to serve God. He says, say it every day, multiple times a day. And you can ask yourself, what in the world am I doing? If I believe it, I don't need to recite this every single day. I don't go over to my child every day and I say, by the way, just to clarify, I am your parent. I don't tell my parent, are you still my parent today? I say, I know this. I don't deny it. It's the truth. There's no need to affirm it again and again. Why is it that God has this insecurity where he says every single day, multiple times a day, say that I'm one, say that you love me, say that you'll fulfill my commandments? Is God that insecure with our relationship that he needs us to constantly say the same thing again, which is why so many people feel a lack of interest in prayer, because they say it's nothing new. It's the same words again and again, every single time. What am I doing? I'm like going through a non-necessary procedure, and therefore I lose interest. There's nothing exciting about it. There's nothing that's unique each and every day. Why do we have to do it? Who can think of an answer? Why would God want us to reaffirm our commitment to him again and again? It's an open question for anyone. Oh, yes, Layla.
So we don't forget and stray from it.
Yes, 100%. You got it right. Naturally,
I'd also add to it.
yeah.
You hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, so just like a parent, you may not have to affirm things like, yes, you are my parent, or I am your child. That would be like, it would sound like unnecessary. But on the other hand, you wouldn't say that a parent shouldn't affirm to their child every day, I love you, I care for you. So meaning when it comes to emotion and love, it is something that is okay, because it's not necessarily like you're not stating like the sky is blue every day. You're stating your feelings, and therefore if Shema speaks a lot about feelings, I would see why it makes sense to have to say it, but I don't know if that's on cue or not with what you were going to say. It's just my thought.
Both of you got it right on cue. Both of you got it exactly the right point. When it comes to something that I don't need a reminder because it's not something that I might go astray, yes, I don't need a constant reminder. But something that I might not behave accordingly, I'm not reminding God that that's the case. God is not insecure to know that he's really God. God is saying, I need you to remember it. You could know something, but if you don't affirm it constantly, you don't reinvigorate yourself with new excitement again and again, you won't perform at your best. As we see in this shot, if we do not believe it, then what will the recitation help? The recitation is not to tell you believe in it. It's to make you start behaving accordingly. And let's use this as an example to bring out this point. Let's have Elia, if you'd like to read.
You are in the NFL. What is the second round of the this is the second round of the playoffs. There are 2 minutes left and your team is down by 6. You are at the end of the timeout and your team is huddling. It is up to you to hype up your teammates and win this thing. What do you say?
Yeah, what would you say, Elia? If you were playing this game and you had to get everybody rallied because you guys are losing, but you have a chance to win, what would you say? Would you be like, I don't want to fill in? You say
I would
first.
encourage them to get their head in the game and try our best, but also don't be worried about what happens that much.
Okay, so very good. You're on track. Everybody would get into this rah-rah mode where they say, telling everyone, listen, give it all you got. Try your hardest. We're going to beat this. We're going to take them home. We're going to make them into mincemeat. Guys, we're going to win. Yeah. And they start screaming and jumping and they're all excited and pumped up that they have this affirmation now that they're going to win this game. Even though there's just a few chances left for them, it's almost the end of the game. They're getting all into it, this boost of energy to win the game. Now you ask yourself, wait one moment. So until now, guys, you weren't interested in winning the game? Like you guys had to huddle together after 45 minutes of playing and years of training to finally decide that you want to win this game? Like what were you doing until now? And they'll say, no, of course we were trying till now to win. But there's no limit to how much you can get yourself re-energized, to get yourself re-excited, especially when it's tough. That's when you want to get that new motivation to say, I'm going to push forward. I'm going to make it happen. I want to really be committed to it. So they constantly huddle together because the mode of laziness, sleepy, giving up hope can creep in any moment. And therefore the chief, the captain, the guy in charge of the team, the coach is constantly trying to re-excite his people to get back into it. So we recite the Shema again and again because it's getting us back into the mode. The more we do something, even just a simple act, the more we start feeling that way. Let's use over here on the next page. Sheila, if you'd like to read, this is closed.
I can't see anything.
Oh, okay. So we'll get back. I guess maybe if you see later, let us know, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I don't see any script.
Okay. So Layla, if you'd like to read.
This is called an affirmation.
Yep.
Okay. This is called an affirmation. The more you say or hear it, the more you believe it. And of course, the more you believe in it, the more confidence you'll have, giving you the boost you need to win the game. I think I can. I think I can. Should I keep going?
Yes. I'm gonna just read this part. Yeah.
When we say or hear something or on repeat, we start to believe it, whether or not we already do. This is called creating a narrative. The words we surround ourselves in shape our world and our identity in it.
Right. So this is, unlike popular belief, we say, well, you believe what you believe. My opinion doesn't change. We can actually change our life by changing the narrative. Soldiers bring out this idea so much where their generals are constantly pumping them up. They're constantly giving them marches and songs and saying, march that we're going to win and hold your flag high and march in a team where it looks so perfect. And you ask yourself, why in the world would an army march in such perfect formation? When was the last time an army went out to battle and they marched like that? No one goes out to battle marching in a perfect formation. That's like setting yourself up for a disaster. You come out with tactics from different sides. They never are in the real field the way they are in their base. But yet it's done so much to the soldiers to give them this feeling inside that even when they're by themselves, they should feel so sure of their army's ability to overcome all the challenges that are given their way, to overcome the enemy, that it's constantly repeated again and again until it starts becoming the way the soldiers believe, the way they start looking at themselves. Shadi, if you'd like to read this square.
Do you want to give others the power to choose your narrative verse, or do you want to have that power? Continue.
Now, yeah, getting back to music, let's read the next line and we'll explain.
Improper and or immoral themes and songs will affect what you actually believe and ultimately do.
So now that we explained what the Shema is and soldiers or NFL, what they're trying to accomplish, we could understand how much music plays that role. Music is helping the person define his narrative. And you have to ask yourself, who do I want to decide the narrative of my life? Do I want it to be myself, meaning based on my values, based on my mind, what I studied, what I believe? That should give me my opinion. Or do I want it to be someone else, someone that's trying to make a few dollars off me, for them to decide what it is that my life is going for? What's the purpose? What's my goal? And as much as we can tell ourselves, oh, it's just music, it does change. It creeps in and it chips away at what we believe in ourselves. If soldiers would just hear every once in a while songs how they're losing, eventually that's the way they would start believing. If a person in the NFL every once in a while would tell his team, let's get together and huddle, just once a game, we'll huddle together how sucky our team is and how bad we are and how we're going to lose every game. No one would say that, oh, just one time is fine because we know we're so good. They say, I would never do that. That's ultimately ruining my goal of what I'm trying to accomplish. It might not be seen each and every time, just like in every other aspect of our life. When a person eats unhealthy, you cannot eat one unhealthy thing and go to the doctor and see the results. You won't say, all of a sudden I'm obese and all of a sudden I'm sick and I'm throwing up and I cannot get up in the morning, I'm so lazy. It creeps in step by step, slowly but surely. You eat a little bit unhealthy, you get more and more. And it could take 20, 30 years for someone to start having heart failure and needing a triple bypass because of the food they ate. But it didn't start with nothing. It started with one step that moves on to the next and the next. Just as it goes with unhealthy food, it goes with unhealthy messages. Unhealthy messages in music has an effect on us. As much as we say it's just what I heard, same goes for what we see. Judaism teaches us the power of sight, the power of vision, that what we see changes who we are. We should never say, well, I didn't do it and I didn't say it, I just saw it, and therefore what harm can be done. The harm of vision to a certain degree is worse than other harms because something that we visualized is extremely difficult to forget. Something that we heard, something that we read, or even something that we spoke, we could forget about quicker than something that we saw. So too with music, it has an extremely powerful message that it creeps into us, and therefore it has the ability to do wonders. if it's great song, and it has the ability to do destruction if it's not good song. Let's move on to another quote. Mushki, if you'd like to read this page.
If the women sing to lull the children to sleep, that is permissible. However, the Shalah and other works of ethics already warned us not to sing erotic songs to a child, as they create negative character traits in the child. Aside from the intrinsic prohibition against singing erotic songs and immodest lyrics because they increase the power of the evil inclination within a person, and one who is concerned with his soul should distance himself from them and warn his family about them as well.
Yes, so this is a quote from Jewish law, which discusses how someone's culture can be changed based on the music they listen to. And we see that in society. Many cultures, it's not a fault of their own, but bottom line, they grow up in a society which listens to a certain class of music, which praises certain types of behaviors. And then unfortunately, the children grow up thinking that this is the model of a good life. This is the ideal of how a person shall live their life. So that's point number one, where we focused a lot on the outlet versus the inlet. The idea that sometimes music can give over negative messages more than we think it's trying to change what we want to influence in ourselves. It's giving over a message that someone else had in mind. Let's move on to point number 2 of the class about the language of the mind. And Elia, if you'd like to read over here, B, till the bottom of the page. Page 264 in your book.
Oh, it's okay. Music, the language of the mind. Melody itself carries with it Melody itself carries with it its own intellectual meaning. Without words, we can often still interrupt thoughts behind the notes we hear. But of course, music is so much more than the lyrics. Let us talk about the notes and sounds. Certainly words communicate, but can melodies communicate? Oh yes, they do. Every language has a rhythm. Go to any other country or state and you'll notice that not only are the words different, but so are cadence, sound, and syllable. At the most basic level, we all speak in tune. Without words to guide it, how does tune influence comprehension?
Yes. So let's use some examples. And Layla, if you'd like to read over here what you have on the screen.
Option 1, let's eat grandma. Option 2, let's eat grandma.
So do you see a difference between the two options?
Oh, sorry. I had like the people. What? Is there a difference?
Yeah, there is a small difference which would change the meaning of the sentence.
Oh, there's a comma.
Right.
Let's eat grandma. That's really different.
Yeah. So now,
Changes the meaning a lot.
right, with the comma, you could see it. But let's say if you weren't able to see it, if you just heard someone say, let's eat grandma, or if someone says, let's eat grandma, the tune is different. So now you can see the difference. But the point this is trying to bring out, the tune is different between if you say, let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma. That tells us a lot that the sentences of what we're trying to say can be influenced based on the tune that someone uses. Here we have another option. Elia, if you'd like to read.
Woman without her man is nothing. Woman without her man is nothing. Oh, that's cool because, yeah.
So it's right, the same words. And here you could see the difference in how it's spelled out and written. But the point is, can you see the difference if you were just listening to it? If someone said the words without any tune, woman without her man is nothing, it can have one meaning, versus when someone uses a tune and they say women without her man is nothing, or men is nothing, I guess depending on if it's plural or singular, it changes the message that it's giving over. So punctuation is merely represents the tune of stress and emphasis. Punctuation is not what changes it. It's telling us how we should change our tune and how we read it, signaling to us how it should be read properly. Let's go on in the student book, moving on to the next page. And I guess, Sheila, now if you can see it, let's have you read this part. So yeah, so read C.
Music affects mood more than any other medium. When listening, we become swept up in the highs and the lows of the music's emotional story.
Yeah. So let's use over here an example, a video that shows us how the music can change the story itself. Let's make sure you guys can see that. You should be able to see the screen. So this is showing, just to clarify, this is going to be the same scene with 5 different tracks of music. Try to see if you were to give a one name label to every track, and then at the end of the video will tell us its opinion about how each track identifies with the different labels itself with a different name. Okay. So what's the point of this video? If we were to clarify or describe the difference in between a lecture and music, the difference would be that a lecture is exclusively intellectual. Music has an intellectual message which is given over with emotion. Music is not just giving over an idea, but it also has an emotional story to it as well. Note by note, stanza by stanza is giving over and touching our emotions. When we listen to music, we're drawn into the emotional story of the artist, and we're captured by the drama, and we go along for the ride. So whether we like it or not, music has an extremely powerful impact on how it influences our opinions more than just ideas. I'll use an example. If you were to go and hear 2 pitches for a charity, 2 people were to stand up and share with you about a charity that they want you to support, and you have to choose one over the other. One person stands up with an appeal, and they speak to you intellectually how good their organization is, what good things they do, and how they use their fund, how they use your money. And it all sounds great and dandy that this is a really worthy cause. The second speaker stands up, and they don't just give over the ideas of what they do, but they share with you an emotional story. They share with you the story of a woman that was almost killed and how their organization helped her and her children. And they bring her up on the stage, and she gives over the message of how this organization, how she experienced it in her own private life. Which organization are you more likely to give to? And studies show, they put this online, if you were to sell something on eBay without an emotional story and with an emotional story, meaning if you were to sell something simple, a thing that you bought for $1 on eBay, just don't write any description, versus if you were to sell the same item, but write a whole description how you had $1, a gift from your grandmother, and she said you should choose the most favorite thing that you love to buy, and you purchased it and you had it shipped to your home and it hung up there for 18 years. And now that you're moving on to a new home, you decided that this very sentimental piece in your home, you want to give over to someone else to bring the light and warmth into their home. That is a lot more likely to sell than the same exact item without a description, because people are buying the emotional story to it. They're buying the aspects that are given along with it. So when someone has emotions involved, the message goes over a lot stronger. If you hear music, you're a lot more likely to cry about something than if you were just to listen to someone saying over an idea without the music associated with it. Let's read the source inside from different verses where we find in Judaism that music was used for a good sense in order to encourage someone to get to a loftier level. Starting with the book of Samuel, starting if you'd like to read from music effects in the first box.
Music affects and reflects our emotional mood. Music heals the soul, Samuel 16:23. And it would be that when the Spirit of God was upon Saul, that David would take the harp and would play with his hand, and Saul would be relieved, and it would be good for him. The spirit of evil would depart from him.
So we have here that Saul, in order for him to get into a good mood, he would use music to bring the Spirit of God upon him. So music is not just a secular thing. It was a way for someone to connect closer to God. And let's hear a source from the Talmud. Sheila, if you'd like to read, source number 9.
Similarly, so I command mirth. That is the joy of mitzvah. The praise of joy mentioned here is to teach you that the divine presence rests upon an individual, neither from an atmosphere or of sadness, nor from an atmosphere of laziness, nor from an atmosphere of laughter, nor from an atmosphere of frivolity, nor from an atmosphere of idle conversation, nor from an atmosphere of idle chatter, but rather from an atmosphere imbued with the joy of a mitzvah, as it was stated with regard to Elijah, that after he became angry as the king of Israel, his prophetic spirit left him until he requested. But now bring me a minstrel. And it came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of the Lord came upon him.
So again, Talmud over here says that the Spirit of God rests when someone is in a joyous mood from a good deed that they've done, and they've had music playing as well. And on the negative side, this is a famous psalm which is said pretty often regarding the destruction of the temple. Layla, if you'd like to read Psalms 137.
A song of exile and sadness. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat and wept, as we thought of Zion. There on the poplars we hung up our lyres, for our captors asked us. There for songs, our tormentors for amusement. Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing a song of the Lord on foreign soil?
So they felt at the time they didn't want to sing, and their captors asked them to sing, but they hung it up on trees. They said, we cannot play our music right now because we are not in a happy stage. We're not in a good mood. So the music affects the person's mood, and they didn't want to be happy at a time when it was extremely painful and destruction, a time when their temple was destroyed. And Stein, if you'd like to read this question.
Did music ever make you feel calm or uptight?
What do
Yes.
right? So we connect to the music on an emotional level. That is the key of how music is different than intellectual things. Music gives over two things, intellect and emotion. And therefore, the experience we have from the music can have a tremendous impact on us. In fact, it's more powerful, like we said, than intellectual discourse. Let's read over here our next point. Elia, if you'd like to read. Read this question. It's on page 270.
Would you ever go to a lecture or course given by this artist?
Well, start over here also. Read the top part as well.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Take a good look at the artist and song and ask yourself, would I ever go to a lecture course given by this artist, and not just an intellectual course, but an emotional one that really hits home?
Right. So the question is, the difference of music versus a intellectual course is, intellectual course directly tells you, I'm trying to tell you something. Our brain, whenever someone tries telling us something, puts up natural barriers and guards and says, 1 second, is this something I agree with or not? Is this something I want to accept or not? When it comes to hidden messages, when it comes to messages that are given in a subliminal way, in a undercover, discreet way, our brain doesn't know to filter and decide if we want this or not. Our brain just allows it through because we didn't notice that it's trying to give us a message. When music is being heard in our ears, we don't think to ourselves, someone is trying to give me an opinion. Someone is trying to change my outlook on something. We say, someone is trying to sing music, and I love it. It's beautiful. But ultimately, that is more creeping in and affecting our opinions than anything else. As they'll teach anyone that speaks, you can give lectures for hours and people will listen, they'll take a point here, a point there, but they'll probably forget it. If you share a story, if you sing a song that has a message, it sticks with people so much greater, so much more, because when you share a story, I'm not telling you, you have to do something, you should do this. I'm sharing an encounter that happened with someone else, and people are very open to listening to that. But a bottom line changes their outlook on their life, what they'll do in their cases because of a story that they heard. Think of it yourself in your life. I know it works for me. Many things that I do that I'm happy about, I'm proud of, that are good, it's because I've heard a story of someone in the past that has gone through a similar situation and they chose the right thing. And that's what sticks with us, because it wasn't given in a direct way, but it was given in a covert way, in a hidden undercover method, and it could easily slip through our psyche without being noticed because it's done in a subliminal way. So too, messages that we hear in music are taking over our psyche. They are changing our opinion, but you have to ask yourself, if I would listen to a lecture by this artist, do I consider them a role model as to someone that I want to look up to, someone I want to hear opinions from, someone I want to shape my outlook on life? Or is it someone that I don't think has any talent? Sometimes in reverse, someone that you would hear a lecture from, you would say, I would never want to hear them sing. They don't have a good voice. That's okay, because music, you're not looking for the lecture, you're looking for the entertainment. You're looking for the good feeling that you get. But what we don't tend to focus on is that when someone is playing music, there is also the aspect that they're our teacher. They're becoming someone we're connecting with, someone that we're getting a message, and in a way, a lot of a stronger impact, because we're not putting our guard up as to, I'm listening to a lecture. The message just becomes a part of who we are. And before we know it, this is the way we start looking at life. Let's, Sheila, if you could read over here, be sure until the bottom of the page.
Oh, The tongue is the quill of the heart, and the music is the quill of the soul.
Yeah, and then what above it, from above it as well. Be sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Music of the language of this music, the language of the soul. Beyond intellect and emotion, music has the power to speak to and uplift the soul toward the divine.
Okay. So,
but the truth,
yeah, read it.
okay. But the truth is that music runs deeper than physical capacity. Music is the language of the soul.
Right. So music ultimately is the way the soul can express itself and the way we can connect to our soul. Reading on the next page, Stern, if you'd like to read over here, music, and then source this first source.
Music can be a vehicle for transcendence, to tune in, pun intended, with the inner spiritual self and rise above space and time, to transcend the corporal, mundane. Actually, music can even be leveraged as a tool for the soul to rise to a level of prophecy. Music awakens prophecy. And when you approach the city, you will be greeted by a group of prophets coming down from the heights, and before them will be a harp, drums, flute, and lyre, and they will be prophesizing, and the Spirit of Hashem will extend upon you, and you will prophecy with them, and you will become a different person.
Okay, so again, over here we see the music was causing them to have a prophecy. And Layla, if you'd like to read the next source.
All of his days, Moses never required any stimulation from any kind of nigun, melody, to invoke the spirit of prophecy, for it never withdrew from him at all. Always on the ready from his side, never refraining at all, in his supernal power, there is no withdrawal of spirit or the flow of divine light, and this was his paradigm. This was not the case with the rest of the prophets, upon them peace, who needed nigunim, melodies, to awaken the spirit and invoke prophecy upon them, as it is written, you will encounter a band of prophets descending from the high place, before them a harp, drum, and flute, and they will prophesy. Sam 10:5. Or 1 Samuel. Yeah, okay. Yep. And now get me a musician, and he plays his melody, the hand of God will be on him.
So he explains that Moses, because he was always in touch with his soul, didn't need to have the music. So music allows us to get in touch with our soul. And moving on to the next page, again, they have this verse which was mentioned in the other paragraph. And Elia, if you'd like to read music.
Music can be a tool to express longing and yearning. When the soul feels trapped and cannot reach full transcendence, music can also drive perseverance. The soul's ability to overcome challenges and overturn mountains ultimately reveals the inner good in everything. The above are just a few examples.
Right, so we have 2 examples of what music can do. Number one, if someone has a strong yearning, people that went through a big trauma a lot of times will make beautiful music which expresses how their soul wants to get out of that trauma. Or if it's music can drive someone to push forward, even a really difficult time, they'll compose music or listen to music or think about it, have it playing to allow them to survive even with a difficult challenge, and not just to live with it from something that happened in the past, but to give them the motivation to make it through, to get over the mountain. Here you have a quote from Kleinimus Kalman. Mushki, if you'd like to read, sometimes.
Sometimes a person must build ladders to climb to the heavens. A niggin song is one of these ladders, specifically when we sing after the joy of a mitzvah with the heart broken open.
So not just can it help us in the physical world, but it connects us with God. Even if we're not a prophet, a soulful song, a song that is with that purpose of connecting us with God, can really accomplish a lot of connecting one with God. We'll use over here an example. This is a famous Chabad melody. I'll play just a little bit of it. You could hear more of it if you go online. There's many different versions of it, different people playing it. This is a song of a man named Shamil. He was a ruler that was, I guess you can call him an independent ruler within a country. He wasn't getting along with the local government, and they tried many times to win him over in battle, but they always failed because he had a higher advantage. He was in the mountains and they were down below. He was always winning them battle after battle. At one point, they got fed up with him, so they tricked him. They told him, we want to make peace, we want to settle things, and we'll become friends. So he came down from the mountain to make peace, and then they captured him and sent him to jail. While he was in prison, he composed a song where he has 3 ideas, 3 points he brings out in his song. It's a song without words, but the tune gives over the message. The first part of the song speaks of how good life was, how amazing it was in the beginning. And then it goes through the second phase where he feels now that his life is miserable. He was caught, he was in jail, he cannot express himself, but he finishes off his song with point number 3, stanza number 3, third stanza, how good it will be, how he has hope, faith, and belief that it will become better, that there'll be better times. So let me play over here this song. In a view. So that's the song. And they have here, the song is without lyrics, but I'll play over here just a second. Oh. So I'll play over here just for a moment. Someone else just a few years ago put English lyrics to that song expressing the idea of the song. In a beautiful palace on a mountain so high, Shamil rules his kingdom with pride. His enemies defeated in fight after fight. His advantage is clearly is high. To a false call for peace, he agrees to come.
enslaved and imprisoned, his pain knows no bound. Yet his spirit is high, for he knows he'll ascend and be with his nation again. Though it seems so unreal, he is confident and sure. He'll rise more than ever standing as one with their Father above, serving with fear and with love. For emotions and knowledge were godly and pure, and the shalom was safe and secure. To the lowest of low, she is sent with the gold. But countless distractions are drowning the soul. From the depth of my Rabbi, she cries, she longs for her source upon high. She knows from down here she could rise even more, much closer to Hashem than before.
So the point of that song is as a metaphor for our soul. It's a true story, but Hasidic thought adopted that song because it brings out a metaphor for our life in this world, where we were better off in heaven. We come down to this world, we were sort of tricked into being in a society where we have to take care of our needs, and we could get caught up with being selfish, being narcissistic, being cruel and mean, angry and upset. And yet, we know that it's all worth it because it'll become better. We know that with our work, we can reach higher levels than we would be able to achieve if we were to just stay in heaven. So this is an example of a song and the idea, what we're trying to bring through the song, the message we're trying to share based on what he went through and using it for a positive twist in order to better our service with God. Based on this, we can understand why it's no wonder that in Judaism, in the service of temple, there was an orchestra playing. Literally an orchestra, they would have tens of musicians playing all different type of instruments and singing songs, which today is different. Most synagogues do not have choirs going on as they used to have back in the day. But the idea is definitely a Jewish idea. For whatever reason, we could say that today we need a more focus on the words, and we could get too distracted with the music and it turns into a concert rather than a time to connect to God. But back in the day, they were able to communicate and have a connection with God through the music directly. Let's look over here at some verses in the Torah where it speaks about the service of music inside of the temple. And Mushki, if you'd like to read source 17.
Sure. Okay, Chronicles 25. David and the officers of the army set apart for service the sons of Asaph, of Haman,
Yeah.
and of Jeduthun, who prophesied to the accompaniment of lyres, harps, and cymbals. The list of men who performed this work according to their service was ...
So here we have that they set aside some of the workers in the temple to play with the music. And we had over here above the quote from the verse in the Torah where they would serve. So the Torah doesn't say clearly they should serve by playing music. The Torah says they should do a service. So the Talmud discusses what does it mean they should do the service of the service. And the Talmud explains, this is a little bit of a lengthier one, but Stern, if you'd like to read this one from the Talmud.
Talmud Arachin 11a. Rabbi Yehuda said that Shmuel said, from where is it derived that the basic requirement to accompany communal offerings with the song applies by Torah law, as it is stated with regard to a Levite who serves in the temple, then he shall serve with the name of the Lord his God. Deuteronomy 18:7. What is the service that is performed with the name of God? You must say that this is the song in which the Levites mentioned and praised the name of God. Alavadi said that Rabbi Yochanan said that the requirement for the Levites to accompany the temple offering with song is derived from here. The verse states with regard to the Levites, everyone that entered in to do the work of service, Numbers 4:47. What is the work that must be performed in conjunction with another service? You must say that this is song. Rabbi Yitzchak says that the requirement to accompany the temple offering with song is derived from here. Sing aloud to God, take upon the melody, and sound the timbrel, the sweet harp with the lyre. Psalms 81:2-3. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said that the obligation is derived from here. Those yonder lift up their voice, they sing for joy. For the majesty of the Lord, they shout from the sea. Isaiah 24:14.
So here you have different quotes in the Talmud, different opinions as to where we learn out a clear verse that there should be song in the temple, but everybody agrees that there was song in the temple and it was part of the service. It's not a clear verse in the Torah, but it's hinted to in the Torah. The prophets definitely mention it clearly that you should sing to God with it. So they found hints in the Torah where it can be learned from. And you had here on the holiday of Sukkot, Simchat Beit HaShoeva, they would sing with a flute for 5 or 6 days, depending on when Shabbat fell out. And we have this next quote from Reb Zev Wolf from Zhitomir. And Leila, if you'd like to read it.
Look, first of all, we say Psukei Dizmirah, verses of song, about which the rabbis of blessed memory said, why are they called verses of songs, mirah, which actually means prune or cut away? Since they cut away mezamrim, the husks, which really means to pare away, mizamer, the husks, from one's heart and soul. And we continue in this through all the hymns, Zmirot. We pare away the husks of the negative qualities we feel within us, and after we are ready to pray, implying connection, uniting the one's inner thoughts to the loftiness of one's divinity. And when the recitation of the Shema arrives, then a complete unity with the Holy Blessed One is made.
Yep, perfect. So the idea is music is extremely powerful, more than we think, and we can have a beautiful effect. We can have a positive effect by music where we peel away the negativity in our lives through music, but music can also have, on the negative side, peel away the good through negative music. So understanding that music can help one be more divine, more connected to God by peeling away from his materialistic negative traits shows us that the power of music is extremely potent, and we should be aware of it, not, God forbid, to use it to take away the good, but to take away the bad and use it for positive influence. And as the last chapter of the book of Psalms, the book of Psalms is the largest book of all the books in the Bible, has 150 chapters. The last one speaks about praise God with a shofar, with a lyre, with a harp, with a drum, with dance. And it goes on about using instruments, using music for positive reasons to thank God and connect with God. Before we get to our takeaway and the key points, I just want to finish with one side point, which usually comes up. First, just about, they have here an addendum about Christian music, which is, according to Jewish law, you have here the source written down. Where is it? Oh, for some reason it's not here. So it speaks about, is a person allowed to listen to Christian music, meaning music that's meant to serve other gods, not just Christian, but other gods that people want to make songs for. So Jewish law prohibits because it connects us with the other gods. And because we want to be devoted to God, we shouldn't listen to music that's connected with other messages which are against the Torah. But the one point I wanted to mention, which usually comes up, is about Kol Isha. Maybe you heard of it, which is having women singing. Jewish law does not allow for men to listen to women singing. And if it's taken the wrong way, people can assume it means that we degrade women, we don't value them, we put them down, and we say, we don't want to have you singing. But it's on the contrary. Jewish law values so much Jewish music, values so much the women, and therefore it says listening to someone's music has a relationship already. It's to a certain degree an intimate relationship. Listening to one's music connects you with that person. And if it's not someone you should be connected with, don't listen to their music because you're connecting with the wrong person. You're using a powerful source of connection for the wrong purposes when you're connecting with someone that is supposed to be connected with their spouse, with someone else, not with you. So for a woman to connect with another woman, women listening to other women singing, that's okay. But for a man which shouldn't be connecting with someone that he shouldn't be able to marry, he shouldn't be listening to their music, which is already a connection. Similar to the idea of yichud. Jewish law prohibits for a man and woman to be alone together in a locked room. If it's not one spouse or not someone that's family related, like a mother, a grandmother, a daughter, or a sister, a man and a woman that are not related and are not married, they should not be locked together in a room. And some people say, oh, all religious men, they cannot contain their drives and their cravings. And if they're going to be locked in a room with a woman, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what they're going to do? They can't even listen to a woman sing because they'll just hear the woman sing and they'll be doing sins right away. They cannot contain themselves, but we are okay. We're able to manage our temptations, and I can be with a woman locked in the room and nothing will happen. I can listen to a woman sing and I won't do anything wrong, which might be the case. Maybe you won't do anything wrong, but what we're missing is that already there was an intimate relationship. Just being locked in the room, Jewish law says, is so powerful, even if you don't do anything else. Just the fact that you were both in the same room already made an intimate relationship between you and that person. And if they're not your spouse, you don't want that relationship. Already listening to someone's music has some type of connection of you and them on a spiritual level, which if they're not your spouse, you don't want that connection to happen because it interferes with ultimately your connection. So it's not just, will you come to do something wrong? And if I say, oh, I won't do anything wrong, I'm okay. Which that's also a problem. And yes, society, they made studies. They say that the amount of infidelity that happens in marriages, they say, I think it's about 40% of unmarried relationships, and as high as in total, 75% of issues of marriage and divorce, they say, is related to infidelity to some degree or another. So yes, society maybe should take a better look at itself and say, maybe we are too open, but that's not the only point. It's not just about will it lead to something, but rather it itself is already a strong connection. And you don't want to have a connection with a person that might interfere with the connection you should be having with your true partner. Let's move on to our final key points. And we'll start with Sheila, if you'd like to read the first point.
Music is an ancient form of human creativity and spiritual expression.
Yeah, so we started off saying that already before the flood, before Noah, people were already buying and selling music. From the 7th generation, we have recorded in the Torah that they were dealing with it. So music is not a random thing. It's part of what God intended to create as a form of spiritual connection. Point number 2, Layla.
In Judaism, music is an essential part of service and worship of God. So, for instance, with the Shema, something that we say every day, and other prayers, it's like a constant reminder. And that's why it's an essential part of service and worship to God, because worshiping God is like you have to remind yourself of it every day. So it keeps it strong and even strengthens it further.
Right. Which is why we'll sing a lot of parts of the prayer, because by singing it, it connects us with it better. It allows it to penetrate our belief system, not just as an intellectual concept, but also as an emotional one. Okay, Elia?
Lyrics can be affirmations. The words we hear and repeat affect our thoughts and actions. So like the more we listen to something, or we start to believe it, and then it becomes true.
And we see that with societies, like we said, it won't happen after one time, but it slowly creeps in. The more someone listens to it, they find this with people that were mass shooters, the type of music they listened to, the type of video games they were playing, the types of videos they were watching. These affect the person, and we say, oh, what harm can be done by it? But bottom line, especially with younger people where their brain is not fully developed, the things that they hear start creeping into their mind even when they're convinced that it's not. Okay, the next point, Mushki.
When we listen to music, we plug into the soul of the artist and the feeling they had when they wrote the song.
Okay, if you want to share anything from the class that you took on from that point.
Yes, that unlike words, because lyrics are the pen of the soul, and it's the way the soul expresses, therefore when the composer or when the singer is singing his or her words, they're giving over more than just talk, but they're giving over a deeper form of verbal expression through music, which is penetrating the soul. And therefore, yes, you have some sort of soulful connection with whoever it is that you're listening to.
Okay, beautiful, thank you. Shtarni, 5th point.
Music's emotional transcendence of intellect makes the feeling and ideas found in music extremely persuasive. So when someone's giving a lecture, you're kind of on guard, like filtering it out, but music, it just, you kind of believe it, what you hear, like you connect to it.
Yeah, very true. Okay, and Sheila, last point.
The music we choose to listen to reflect and uphold the values we want to live by. Oh, that's like self-explanatory. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're listening to it, that's what you should really feel.
Right. And it's the music, what they're saying, who is saying it, which in today's society in America, there are people that are meaningful and people that are famous. Unfortunately, many times the two do not correlate. There's people that are extremely famous, but not because anything they do is meaningful, but just because of the way they look, the clothing they wear, the type of money they have. And we have to ask ourselves, who are the people that I want influencing my way of life, not just what everybody else is following, I need to follow because they're famous. You can have someone extremely famous, but they have zero meaning to help my life be a better person. And then there's people that are not so famous, but they can give us good meaning And so goes with music. Not every popular song means it's a meaningful song. Not every meaningful song has to be popular. Music can really connect with us, and depending on what we're going through in our lives, the type of music, we have to extremely be careful of what it is that I want to connect with and use to elevate, to have my outlet, at the same time remembering that this is also an inlet into someone else's life. Okay, with that, we'll conclude the class. It was a pleasure joining you all. And
Thank you.
we'll see you again next week.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Levy. It was a pleasure joining
Thank you.
for my first
Well,
class.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to see you all. Good night.